Hi. Before we dive into the episode, I have something so exciting to share. My debut Christian romance novel, Finding Forevermore, is live on Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a special crowdfunding platform where I can offer exclusive content and rewards you won't find anywhere else. If you love a swoony friends to lovers romance with themes of brokenness and second chances, I'd be so grateful if you'd check it out. Thank you so much for being part of this journey. Now let's get on to the episode. Welcome to the Christian Romance Podcast, where we go behind the books with inspiring Christian romance authors, exploring faith, love, and the journey that brings the story to life. I'm your host, Kelly Jo Wilson, and today we're chatting with Laura Frantz. Laura is a two-time Christy Award winner and the ECPA bestselling author of 17 novels, including The Rose and the Thistle, The Frontiersman's Daughter, and A Heart Adrift. She is the proud mom of an American soldier and a career firefighter. Though she will always call Kentucky home, Laura lives with her husband in Washington State. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the episode so you can hear about our newest book giveaway for Valentine's Day and how you can enter to win. Now, here's my conversation with Laura. Hi, Laura. I am so happy to have you on the Christian Romance Podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
Kelly, it's such a joy to talk books. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I just can't wait. I can't wait to hear more about you. You have written so many amazing books, and I can't wait to hear about this beautiful story, and the setting and everything just looks amazing. So thank you so much. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, I can't believe I kind of lose track. I think we're up to number 17.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm in awe of the authors who write 100 or more, and they are out there. I don't know that I'll ever get to that point, but for now I have trouble keeping track of just the few I have written.
Oh, I know.
It's because it's just all God's doing, and I'm His gift. I'm so thankful for it.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what a wonderful thing to celebrate. Absolutely. A 17 is so many. I mean, my goodness, I'm in the middle of getting ready for my one debut novel. And I'm like, all over the place.
There's nothing like a debut, I must say.
Yes, for sure. Oh my gosh. It's such a time to celebrate. I love it.
Yes.
Well, why don't you get started by just letting our listeners know a little more about you and your faith journey that you've been on, and this writing journey kind of interwoven together, and just about how you got started writing these wonderful books.
Well, you said something where we get to write alongside God, and that is so true. I mean, He's the creator of everything, including the gift of writing, and who knows why He bestows it on those of us He does. I mean, if I could have picked a gift, it probably wouldn't have been writing. When I was little, I wanted to be a ballet dancer, and I took ballet, and I wanted to be a musician, and I failed everything I tried musically. So, but starting at age 7, my mother was a reading teacher in the public schools, and she actually won Teacher of the Year. She was a pretty phenomenal teacher. She just had many classrooms, and she made sure that her daughter had access to books all the time, as many books as I wanted, including encyclopedias of all things. So, nobody knows what those are almost anymore. You can tell I'm somewhat of a boomer, but there were many books in our home. I loved the bookmobile in the summers. We were always at the libraries. I mean, we didn't just go to one library. We went to all the libraries because different libraries have different books. But anyway, I'm Laura Frantz, if you're just tuning in, and I'm the author of 17. I think it's 17. Correct me. I've never been good at math either. So correct me if that's not right. But with Revell Books, Baker Publishing Group, they've published all of my novels, although I have a novella that is kind of a hybrid, I guess you'd say, that I released last July.
Oh.
That's kind of my own doing, but it's a companion story to one of the Revell novels. So my faith, I was raised in a Christian home, generations of Christians in my family in Kentucky. I'm now in Western Washington State at the gateway of Olympic National Park. I've been married for quite a long time. I have 2 grown sons and 2 little bitty grandchildren. and just a wonderful life made much richer by books and writing. So
That's wonderful. I also have 2 boys, so shout out to my fellow boy mom.
I saw those beautiful boys on your
Yes,
website. They
aw.
are daring. I miss that age very much. I would go back to it in a heartbeat. But
How old are your grandkids?
my grandkids are 9 months old and just turned 2. So
Aw.
Sophie Louise and Fraser James, they're so darling. Sophie has this magnificent head of blonde curls. She's the sweetest thing. She looks like Shirley Temple, although there are probably some who don't know who that is anymore. But she's so darling. And of course, her little brother is just the sweetest. Don't get to see him a whole lot because we live several hours away, but we are in the same state. So that's a plus.
Aw, that's wonderful. That is so cute. Oh, I love with the little blonde curls.
Yes.
That's adorable. I
She is.
totally remember Shirley Temple too, so no worries. And
Oh,
encyclopedias, okay? I
oh,
definitely went
good. So
to
I'm
the
not too
library.
far ahead of you there. Here's
Absolutely, I
another
used to.
shameless plug. I have a newsletter I send out several times a year, and I usually include family pictures, and I get a great reader response when I do that. So I just
Aw.
sent out my winter newsletter, but another one, if people can sign up for it, I'm sending another one in uh, release day and then in the month of February for Valentine's Day. So it's still, you can still see Sophie and her curls if you sign up on my website, but we'll talk more about that in a bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Mhm.
Well, how did you so you write these beautiful historical novels. So how did you
Thank
get
you.
started? Like what kind of pulled you to that genre? Like you write a lot of times in I would say, or what would you say, mainly in the 18th century, right? The
18th,
American.
right. I've taken a leap forward. My series is set in Pittsburgh. And that was a 3-book series. That was about 10 years ago. Love those Valentines. It's called The Valentine Legacy. Only series I've ever done. But my love of writing, as I've said, began with my mother, who was a reading teacher, lots of access to books. But at age 7, when I learned to read or became invested in the school library, I would only read his little historical biographies and historical fiction. So at a very young age, I kind of found my groove, so to speak. And I don't read a lot of contemporary fiction today. There's so many good contemporary authors out there. And the rom-coms are hilarious. And I could probably use a little lightness. My novels are historical romance, but I wouldn't say they're dark at all, but they deal with our characters, go through a lot. We make them jump through a lot of hoops to reach that happy ending. But I just from an early age, I started writing at age 7. As soon as I could hold a pencil, I started writing stories. And then my family would go visit historic sites. I lived in Kentucky where we had much access to many historic sites. My hero is Daniel Boone. I know a lot about the Boones.
Mm.
That's in one of my novels. That history, Boone history, Kentucky history. But I just love history. But there's a caveat there. After the year 1800, my interest just totally fades. So it's like the Lord has boxed me into the 18th century. But interestingly enough, when I went to school, I was able to go to school in England for a time, and I studied the American Revolution from the British perspective, which was very interesting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, I was also schooled in the United States, but I my whole major was 18th century literature, never dreaming that I would someday use that because it wasn't my intent to become a published author. But see how the Lord, looking back, you can see, oh, he had a plan. Me and all those texts, pulling my hair out, all those archaic words, these old authors nobody ever reads, but they just pretend they do, like John, just a whole medley of them but I was in training even back then. So fast forward, to age 40, and that's when publishing began for me. So
Oh, that's wonderful. I love how, like you said, how the Lord just works everything together for
mhm.
good, right? Like he's taking like
He does, even
your
the
experience
bad.
there.
He-
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And
For
another
sure.
another caveat, and sometimes I think I talk of this too much, but there's so much brokenness in the world, and not
Yeah.
ashamed to share it. And I have no hard feelings about my dad. He and my mom were married 20 years when he left. And
Mm.
that's a whole nother story. And then he's passed away. So I was 12 at the time, and it had a profound effect on me.
Mm.
I still don't think I've ever gotten over it. You just don't. And I never saw him again after that. So it was just a tragedy that I think just plays out, has many repercussions. But the good news is that he became a believer, or was a believer, and I have the assurance, that he's in heaven, or so I think.
Yeah.
And but anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, writing to me really kicked in. I started writing at age 7, but I really started writing at age 12 when he left. And at the time, I wrote my heart out through the margins. I was in the band. I was in, was heavily in church groups and different things at that time, and did a lot of other activities, but I was always in the margins. I was writing, and that was my passion then as a young girl. And now in hindsight, I see that the Lord uses creativity like that to heal you and to give you a purpose. And I'm so grateful. I think it has healed me in many ways. Of course, God is the great physician, the ultimate healer, but never underestimate what creativity can do, what writing can do. I kept tons of journals, um, lots of stories going, lots of story ideas. I wrote poetry back then. So it all just worked out into the novels you see today. And I'm very, very grateful.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I couldn't agree more about the writing being so cathartic and really
Mhm.
helpful and in different ways, or just creativity like you
Yes.
said. I used to be into art and painting,
Yes.
chalk pastels, things and like that
Yes.
too, as well as writing too. But yeah, it is
What
very
a
because
beautiful world that is. Whether you're an artist
mhm,
and you do, that's your medium is painting or the chalk or whatever, or the written word. I mean, when you think about creativity and the imagination, it's mind blowing. I mean,
yeah.
how we can create, uh, how the creator has enabled us to create is just, I don't understand it. It's a mystery how you can read these symbols on paper that came from trees and make sense of them and have these mental images. Basically, a book is a whole world. And I mean, to that is just, it gives me chills actually, even talking about it. A book is a world, it's a whole universe. And how that can even work is only God can explain that. I can't even explain it as an author, except to say that I absolutely adore that. You know,
Oh yeah.
Publishing is somewhat hard for me because a, I'm mostly an introvert. I don't put myself out there. I didn't want to publish actually, um, but uh, I'm thankful that God gave me something to do, and I'm hopefully doing it to the best of my ability and leaning on Him to do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can totally yes, you're definitely doing it. I will just tell you now. Yes.
I know.
Um
Run my hands down those 17 books, and I'm like, how did this happen? It
yeah,
was
it's
not, God made it happen, even though I was not very willing. So that's
yeah.
wonderful. Thank
And
you.
it is tough. It's tough because you got to break out of a comfort zone there, right?
Oh, very
like you said,
much.
you're introverted, but you have these stories, these worlds, these characters in your mind in these beautiful way that they're woven together.
Mhm.
But it does bring as writing alongside God does bring this sense of awe.
It does.
Because he, like you said, he is the master creator. He has
Mhm.
created us, but also I have a new appreciation of just how the Bible, right? Like
Yes.
over 2000 years, thousands of years, multiple authors, how it's
Seamless,
so
this seamless
woven,
book that's huge
seamless.
with many
Yes.
authors, and it's seamless and it's perfect. Yes.
Right. Seamless and perfect. I mean, I am like cross-referencing and cross-referencing like,
Right.
do you find yourself doing that too?
I
And then it's like
do. I have a new
to
study Bible that I absolutely love. I think it's called the Jack Hayford Spirit Filled Bible that I highly recommend. And it
oh,
does so much deep dive into scripture just there on the page, these little word wealth little bracket things, and just amazing, amazing how it opens your eyes to the scripture, and you come to it, as you know, in any season, at any time in your life, in any circumstance, and it ministers to you. It's never old. It's always fresh. It is sharper than a two-edged sword.
Oh, yeah.
And thankfully, what I just can't say enough about that. I need to make more time for it. We live kind of in a very fast-paced society that doesn't allow you much time to rest. So that's
Yeah.
been my challenge as a published author, I guess you'd say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you also, when you're not writing, you're doing marketing and you're
Mhm.
doing different things, not to mention trying to juggle family life and balance
And
and all that.
research.
Yeah.
Yeah, research.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your research process like? Does it take a while?
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. It usually takes for the balance. Well, let's hop to. So I wrote about my ancestry in Scotland in The Rose and the Thistle, and then in the novella called A Matter of Honor. So that required over a year and a half, almost 2 years of research. I had to understand the whole British system, the
Mm.
monarchy, the centuries of monarchs, how it turned from Catholic monarchs to Protestant monarchs, understand all the rebellion in those countries, what was happening politically, what was happening culturally, medically, what books were they reading, what foods were they eating. I mean, each book really is a world, and it's a very different world. I think that's the beauty of contemporary fiction, is you don't get bogged down with that research. It
Totally.
frees you up quite a bit. But here's the thing that I will admit, I love research almost as much as writing. So it is not a problem for me. The problem is stopping. It's the only thing I want to do, that I can say, the only thing I'd rather write and research than eat, and I can't say that about anything else. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's wonderful.
Hmm.
I love it. That just proves, I feel like just even hearing you and hearing your excitement
Hmm.
about it, it just shows so much how God gives us the desires of our heart.
Yes.
Like you never would think that your 18th century, like studying, like it would ever go anywhere. You didn't
Hmm.
plan to publish. And now it's like
No.
it's so wonderful that you can just weave it
I
together like that,
And it was after studying it for 4.5 years, it in college on two continents, it became such a part of me that
Yeah.
when I can write it now without even thinking about it. I'm not running to a book. I mean, as far as the language, because I studied it for so long, it just became kind of it got in there and it won't come out. And plus, that's why I love the King James version. I like many versions, but the King James version has that poetic language, and they were still speaking that in the 18th century. And then in the 19th century, it began that to slide into something else. But anyway, so it fits. It fits who I am. Fits even my brand, I guess you'd say. Fits my books. And only
It's
I'm
on
sure to
brand.
curate all that, right? It makes
Oh,
sense of it.
absolutely. But it's helpful too because there is a certain way to research. I mean, I know that even being a nurse and looking up medical articles and different things, different
Mhm.
references and stuff, there is a way to do it. I didn't know, like when I went to nursing school, even I was, they were teaching us to use, obviously credible sources and doing our different projects and things. And I feel like it helps to be pointed in that direction because otherwise, to make sure that it's credible findings and like the law. I think, do you use the law of three, the
Yeah.
three
Oh, that's
pieces of
interesting.
research or
I
something?
never do. I'm kind of a rogue, I think. People have actually asked me to teach classes on writing, and I say I honestly can't do it because I could not tell you how to write, and craft books confuse me. So I think
Mm,
what happened with me, because of my mom and all my exposure to books, and she read to me constantly on her lap before I could even form words, uh, all that, when books were my teachers. So
yeah.
I'm more of an intuitive writer. Craft books confuse me. Like I said, I don't think of story arc, and maybe I should. Maybe my books would be better if I learned more craft, because to me, I'm just an intuitive writer. I sit down, I'm not a plotter. I have a vague idea of where I'm going. I do have good period appropriate names. That's what I do before I begin one single word is I have to have my character names in place, and they have to really work. I have to be at peace with that. But I just literally sit down and do it.
It's awesome.
And that's why I can never read my books once they're in print. By Indigo, I loved you, but I'll never pick you up again because I just can't. If I read it, I would find things I wanted to change. I would find things that were imperfect. They're very well edited. As far as you won't see many typos in those books, thanks to Revell. But I just can't go back to that world. I'm usually 3 worlds ahead of readers. So while we're talking about Indigo, it's like, don't ask me a question I can't answer because I no longer have 3 worlds ahead of Indigo. Literally, I'm not there anymore. I've literally put that Indigo to bed, which is kind of sad. Because
it is kind of sad, but I totally understand. But what I love too, readers right now are probably going, "Oh yes, there's 3 more worlds."
That's true.
You know what I mean? So
you got
which is exciting.
Yeah.
Yes, you got lots more coming. So no worries.
Trying to explain those 3 worlds, like I'm just turned in a Revolutionary War novel January 1st to Revell, to my head editor. She's about to read that now. Meanwhile, I just turned in a novella to an independent editor outside the system, Jenny Q from Jenny Q Historical Editorial. She's awesome. She's worked on one of my books in the past. Anyway, she has that now and she's working on it. So that's off my desk. The 1776 novel is off my desk. And now I'm beginning another novel set in 18th century London along the River Thames, and very different heroine and hero. Never been in London. I mean, I've been to London, I've been to Britain, but not on the page. So this is a new experience. And in the meantime, I have 2 other books that I need to be thinking about that I have to start writing a Christmas novella for Revell this September. So anyway, we're actually almost 4 books ahead of readers at this point. So there you go.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And it's just wonderful. I love it so much that you have these projects in the works. And I like that you said that you just don't, you're not a plotter. You're not really, I wouldn't change anything about your process. I feel like that's your unique voice. That is your unique way to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think that that's beautiful. And that's how you're working out these stories. And I totally understand. Like after a while, I had a friend in one of my writers groups go, if you are not hating your book right now, you are not done editing.
No. That's another reason I can't go back and read Indigo or any of my books. It's like, because I studied 18th century authors and I studied the great authors like Dostoevsky and, the Russian, and the great British writers. So I have a very realistic view of my own writing, and it might be a higher quality than a lot of, just books that are thrown up overnight, on Amazon or whatever. But I still see lots of flaws. I judge mine by the masters, so to speak. Although Francine Rivers says we're always an apprentice, never a master in writing. But to me, those were the masters, and they were just amazing, just amazing. Great foundation for writers like me today, I guess you'd say. They taught me to write, so to speak. Yeah.
Yes, but you have your unique voice. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Oh, thank you. We all do, and it's really amazing that our writing voice is as unique as our thumbprint, our fingerprint. And, so I see my writing, it's been called old fashioned and it's somewhat slower paced, but I think historical novels should be a little bit like that, or a lot like that. So I see my writing, as kind of window, the writing window opens and you publish, and then you don't publish anymore. Who knows? The market changes, your contract runs out, your publisher doesn't renew you. That's not happening for me, thankfully, right now, but it will one day. I'll get older and I can't imagine, because I've been writing since age 7. I think I'll die with a pen in my hand.
You'll be writing forever.
Yeah. And I think, I don't think refute the notion of cherubs on clouds, because we will not be idle in heaven. We won't be floating around strumming harps, although I love the harp and I wouldn't mind doing that. But who's to say I won't be writing in heaven? Who's
Yeah.
to say you won't? You won't be nursing in heaven, thankfully, but you could be writing in heaven. And I think we will continue maybe doing what we've done here. So
Yeah,
that's my,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I just want to go back to and I'm sorry, I just want to go back to something that you said, like about your dad and your family, just your
Mm.
experience. I'm so sorry that happened. It's such a difficult thing, especially whenever it's a parent, like leaving
It was
and then
at that age, it was pretty critical. And there was no
I'm
warning.
sure.
There was no fighting.
Yes.
There was no warning that that was going to happen. He was just gone. And I think that was especially, I mean, it's horrible when parents fight, but there was literally no warning. And I feel for my poor mother. I don't think she's
Yeah.
even gotten over it. She's almost 90 years old. She still thinks very highly of him, never said a bad word about him. And loves his family to this day, his brothers and sisters. So she's a remarkable woman in many ways. Yeah.
Oh, she sounds like it. Absolutely. Because, just having that happen, and that's such a difficult thing. And then being a single mom, and then still like having the respect enough for him to not talk bad about him in front of you. And then,
She really lived out her faith. And then
yeah,
she
like
paid it
that's
back.
amazing.
She had a very full life after he left, after a period of time, but it was very, very hard for her. And
Yeah.
she, with the Lord, walked through it with her, and she had her own happy ending in many ways. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm so glad that she has you there with her too,
yes.
to just be there for her, help take care of her. But I feel like, that experience and those experiences, they also just shape who we are. They shaped you in many ways. And that, especially because you found such solace in writing during that time. And I love that God had used that to really, that you were putting it out, because a lot of times people just keep it in and they don't see a way to get out the pain and the hurt and the frustration and the anger, and get mad, and
it was
especially mad.
a healthy outlet, a
Yeah.
healthy way
Yeah.
to heal. And
For sure.
yeah, I'm so thankful. I still remember of course, that's when I had a typewriter, computers weren't invented. I was young. And I just type. My only concern was getting more typing paper and ink. What a wonderful body
I love
to
it.
have. The happiest sound in the world to me were those keys, peck.
Aw, I love it.
It
Absolutely.
was a great training. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And that, like what you said, it kind of shapes you who you are. It's so funny, like when you were talking about the worlds and how like the creativity, it's so amazing and you get goosebumps. I think the same way. And let me just tell you, learning about, I was always into biology as well. Like I always had like the creative side, but then the science part
With the
too, which is
nursing, mine.
with the nursing.
Yes.
It has always blown my mind, and also given me goosebumps, very similar, about just learning about our makeup, like the human body and the amazing, like
the mind.
miracle, the
Yes,
mind, the
is,
nerves, everything.
And the fact that
unbelievable.
Einstein that said we only use 4 or 5% of
Yeah.
our brain power. I mean,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
because it's a fallen world. I think in Eden, we were fully functioning until we made that fatal mistake. And I say we, it was Adam and Eve, but it was we. We would have done the same thing if it had been us.
Yes.
Sadly. But to be able to use 5% of the mind and do what we do, you look at Elon Musk and all the Renaissance men, I think, of this century. They're not perfect. But what they're capable of is truly astounding.
Astounding.
We write history, but we're living in a very historical period, which, in 100 years will be interesting to see what, I won't be here, but will be said about this period that we're living through. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's unbelievable. I mean, just even the talents and things, like you said before, like some people, I was watching, my husband showed me a video. A man was doing calligraphy, like old calligraphy, freehand. This
isn't it amazing? I studied calligraphy and I still do some, but it's quite
it's
the art.
gorgeous.
And I don't have the patience or the time for it anymore. But oh, I loved it at one time. Yes.
So I want to give you lots of time and I want to be respectful of your time but I want to give you some time to talk about this Indigo Heiress. Talk about the book a little bit. Tell us about your characters, the heroine, the hero, and tell us, we got to talk about the love. No spoilers, but we definitely got to talk about the the
It's the
sizzle.
Christy
I know.
Award podcast.
We love that. We love the meet cutes.
Yes, we do. So Indigo Heiress, it's amazing what inspires a book. So one of my historical real life heroines from the 18th century is Eliza Lucas Pinckney. She was a gem of a woman in South Carolina, way ahead of her time. She was probably the Elon Musk of her generation, only she was in petticoats. But she put indigo production on the map in South Carolina. She was just one of the movers and shakers in that time period. And she started out very young running her father's plantations. And so I borrowed that from Eliza for the Indigo Heiress. I thought just creating a hero with that temperament, with that business savvy, and having her meet her match in a Scotsman who is a merchant would be kind of interesting. And put them at loggerheads, it's always, you need some historical fireworks there in the romance department. But I love my Scottish heroes very much. I tend to only write Scottish heroes for some reason. But he was interesting to me because he's not a believer at the beginning of the book. He becomes a believer mid book, maybe after. Mostly from watching her. He finds her fascinating. So the cover was captured by Ravel and Laura Kleinstra, the designer, to a T. It really reflects the novel beautifully. The house at the bottom, the indigo, the flowers that are scrolling around the font there are actual indigo plants in bloom. And then the dress is very much 18th century. And it's so fascinating. This is how God works. So if you look at the cover, we fill out as authors a detailed, I think it's like 7 to 10 pages about what cover we would like and what the story. We give it to the editorial team, the marketing team, the cover designer. It goes a year before the book is released. It starts. So I filled this out, but I didn't say that she was into pearls and that she wears a ring. So when I got the final cover back, guess what? She's in pearls and she wears a ring. Now, only God could have done that.
Absolutely.
I mean, that to me was like a little attaboy, like you're using the gift I gave you. And so here, he's paying attention. He gave me the gift. He gave me the story idea. And he knows I'm a very visual person. I'm very much into the natural world and beauty. And I don't wear a lot of jewelry, but I love pearls. But it's fascinating to me. So if you look at this cover closely, you'll see her hand and she's wearing the ring that she wears in the story and the pearls, which I find just totally remarkable. It made me feel that the Lord was near and was maybe smiling and smiling at my delight when I saw it, because that was a God thing to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Isn't it so fun? I love watching that. It's funny because writing through the stories, I've heard many authors say that like sometimes things will pop up like that you just did not plan for, that just had to be him. Have you had that experience with this book or with other books that you've written?
Yeah, it's amazing because I know that some plots hinge on research, and you just cannot find a certain thing that you need, and really the whole story to kind of the linchpin for the story, and you have to get this bit of research right, and suddenly from some obscure source it will fall into your lap, and you just know that that's a God thing. Thank you, Lord, because you knew how important that was. I hadn't told anybody about it. Nobody else could serve that up to me. It was God. God did it, and it might seem like, oh, your book is among thousands, 15,000 new books released a week. What does it really matter? But when you're dealing with a God and the hairs of your head are numbered, so are the books you write. he knows, and he knows what you need, and he will do that infilling so that you can pour out. And another thing that's remarkable to me about writing is I always pray for my readers, because Jeanette Oak, the pioneer of Christian fiction, one of them, said that we Christian writers are paper missionaries. And I have a brother who is actually a missionary, and he goes all over the world. And he's been on the field for many years. But he's an in the flesh missionary. But I think it's delightful to think of myself as a paper missionary. And we go into homes and reach readers. We don't even know how the Lord uses that. We don't know who was blessed. We don't know why this particular scene or this sentence struck somebody and maybe kept them going, or maybe convicted them, or was life-changing or life-giving in some way. That to me is a great mystery. Words are powerful. Even romance novels can be powerful. Look at Redeeming Love with Francine Rivers.
Oh, yeah.
Look, it stays on the bestseller list every month. It's continues to minister. I think it's 25 or so years old. There's not a time stamp on things like that. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that. I love that you highlighted that, because all of us have our own story. Everyone does, right? And everyone has different things that happen that they can resonate in with other people. And the things that happen in our life may be very unique to us, but there are similar things that have happened to someone else, and it comes out in your voice, in your types of stories that you write. Exactly. And that, like you said, it can resonate with someone the way that, it may, we talk about it all the time on this podcast, that sometimes people are in a dark spot and they want to get out. They don't know how. They're not ready to pray. They're not ready to pick up a Bible, but they might be ready to pick up a book, a story, right?
It's not threatening. It's in the book. Right.
It's in the book.
It's not demanding anything of them.
Right.
But,
exactly.
Wow, what an impact it can have.
Yes. 100%. Planting seeds, right? I mean, God gives the increase, and that's it. And it's a wonderful opportunity. I feel so blessed too, and honored to be able to do it as well, because like you said, I love that paper ministry.
Yes.
That's our paper missionaries.
Paper missionary, and it is paper ministry. It is really remarkable that to have her say that, she's just reached probably more people than most of us will ever reach. And she sees that through a very, just a lens that few have, and truly remarkable woman in ministry there. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. But I love so much too that I feel like there's such a craving now for books that have a little bit more. Like people, like I've used the example in the past of, like, say, fantasy books, or romantasy is very popular now, like secular, in the secular books, right?
It's huge.
But I feel like there's also this craving, because with Christian books, and with the Christian worldview, and some clean books too, sweet, clean books a lot of times have a Christian worldview, but usually, like Christian fiction, we have the ultimate peace giver, right?
Yes.
We have that hope that Jesus brings that is different than any other secular book. And not saying secular stories aren't great, because I love a ton of secular stories. I like Hunger Games and Harry Potter and different things like that. But there's just a different type of connection and intimacy with the Christian books.
It is a supernatural thing.
Yes, it's a supernatural thing. The Holy Spirit knocks on your door. He's knocking on your heart, especially with the romance aspect, because we love to see them get together. We love to see the romance. But then what is so great is we see their faith, how it empowers them individually, but then also together, and how God is ultimately like the orchestrator of, all of it. Yeah, he's ultimately the author, and it just is so important. And I just, I love it.
There's nothing
so
better
much.
than that. Julie Lessman, who's a dear friend of mine, she's she just has an incredible take on romance and writing. If you visit her website, she's talks a lot about it. But she just, I don't know. We used to tease her and call her the kissing queen. She in romance anyway, her romance books. She just understands romance, and she gives all the credit to the Lord. And truly, there's nothing as romantic as a God honoring romance. I mean,
Yeah.
just it's hard to even describe. And if we can kind of convey some of that supernatural, I use the word magic loosely, but the supernatural, God's plan for romance, it just doesn't get any better for that. And so it's a joy to write about it, even in fiction. Nothing better than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's so it's funny too, because I'm such a like a Hallmarky and
Yeah.
Great American Family.
Me
I was like
too.
always watching the rom-coms, like you said,
Yes.
we were talking about earlier, like the
Mhm.
rom-coms and stuff. And I just look back, and one thing that I personally struggle with is just like feeling like I'm not good enough. I've made all these
Mhm.
mistakes. What am I gonna do? And then I think of like the women picking up these books, like your book, beautiful book, and dealing and seeing like your amazing heroines that are dealing with real stuff,
Mhm.
real
Right.
struggles, and just resonating. I feel like it's so much more, it gives them a hope in such a different way, and even like rom-coms, humor and a little bit of an escape. I
Mhm.
think it's just so important. And God does too, or he wouldn't call us to do
Exactly.
it.
Those, and books are selling well. There was that during the pandemic that everything was kind of crazy, and
Yeah.
people were panicked that print books wouldn't continue to sell or book sales would fall. But then none of that is proven true. I mean, the Bible, I think, the Bible is the most read book. It is the most ordered book. More money is spent on the Bible, and more printings, reprintings, and there's a need and a hunger for that. And Christian fiction is right behind it. It's not going to go away. There's new authors coming up all the time. I think it's just remarkable to be in this industry because we see that it's just a very living, active industry. And it's a pleasure to be a part of that.
Oh yeah, and it's a fellowship. I
Yes.
love this. I feel so honored to get to chat with you today because
Yeah.
it's really it's a fellowship.
Yeah. Shine a light on Christian fiction. And like you said, Christian romance podcast, it doesn't get any better than that. So.
You're so sweet. We are almost at time, but before we go, I just wanted to ask you, was there, so especially going through the difficult times with your dad and just different things and, navigating life with your mom and your family, and just the writing life, getting into publishing, it's very difficult. A lot of times there's rejection bound to be had. Not every idea is going to be accepted. Not every story goes forward. Was there a Bible verse that really kind of anchored you to him in those moments? Like, do you have like a life verse or even a verse that connects with this particular book in the Indigo Heiress?
How about a whole chapter?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I once go back to harken back to my mom. She sat me down when I was 12, and we memorized together the 139th Psalm.
Hmm.
So in every book that I sign, I sign my name and Psalm 139 because, like you were saying, you know, all these circumstances, that you can find yourself in. That Psalm speaks to that. The Lord has a plan for your life. And I don't know that I could say the 139th Psalm as well as I did then, but I still read it in different translations. We memorized it, Mom and I, in the Living Bible. That was kind of the ooh back then. That edition when it came out, I think maybe ruffled feathers because it was not the King James,
Mm.
but it was the easiest to memorize, and so we memorized Psalm 139. Beautiful psalm. Oh my goodness, the imagery in that psalm and the promises in that psalm are truly amazing. It is worth memorizing. It'd be a great homeschool project for a mom with her kids to memorize that psalm because
Oh.
it will accompany you from birth. That psalm talks about how you were knit together in your mother's womb, and it will come. The psalm basically, reaches to your day. All your days are numbered, and that's what that psalm talks about. So your life is not an accident. What happens to you, good and bad, is not an accident. He's woven everything that happened to me into my books. Um, it's part of my voice and my my singular uh, stamp on Christian fiction, you know. And again, I think it's a window. I'll go away. Somebody else will come up. Somebody else will talk to you on this podcast. But it's just wonderful to that God is using Christian fiction and Christian fiction authors and readers. It's a beautiful duet, you know, an author reader duet. I often think, you know, we couldn't do it without our readers, and we have some very devoted readers, and they, like you, shine a light through podcasts, through reviews, through just in all kinds of ways on social media. So, you know, the light and the darkness coexist, but the light is winning.
Oh, yes. Oh, what a wonderful encouragement, Laura. Yes. Thank you for sharing that too. And I think it's important to really, I love that. I want to try to do that more this year, memorizing verses,
Mhm.
because when you just have it in your heart, I believe it was even Psalm 119 where he says, I've hidden your word in my heart so I might not sin
Amen.
against
Sin
you.
against me,
It's
right?
it's really important. And I heard on a video, it was like a video clip the other day, that I don't know who it was talking. It kind of sounded like I have no idea who was talking, but she was talking
Yeah.
about she did a mission in China, and how the people who want to learn, the Christians in China, are very ridiculed. They get in a ton of
Oh,
trouble. They get
right.
thrown in prison. I
Right.
don't know exactly how it is like
So
today,
heartbreaking.
but yeah, it's
Yes.
heartbreaking. And she said that this person who was there to come to listen to her said, I am going to pray. Please pray for us that we can be more like you, your country and America. And she said, no, I won't do that, because you
Right.
guys, you got on a 13-hour train ride to come here. Some
They're on
people won't.
fire.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. They're on fire for the
Mhm.
word. And
Right.
the person that the missionary was talking to said that not only, or that she was told that they she was in prison for it, for having
Mhm.
for being Christian. She was in prison, this particular person, and they sneak in Bibles, but it gets taken, and it gets taken fast. So
Oh,
and they'll sneak it in on paper, like they write down the verses, and those also get taken away. So she said, I memorize it. When you memorize it, nobody can take it
right.
from you.
Nobody can take it.
It's in
And
your
the Lord
heart.
will, that's beautiful. And the Lord will bring it to mind. The Holy Spirit,
Yes.
you know, helps you remember things. It'll come to you when you are not thinking about it,
Yep.
and it will continually minister to you. That's right. Thy word I have hid in my heart. It will never returns void. It will
Yes.
keep circulating and keep ministering to you when, at different times throughout your whole life.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that. Psalm 139, super encouraging. So where, if our listeners, our readers, I always say readers slash listeners,
yeah.
want to connect with you, where's the best place they can connect with you and get a copy of your beautiful books, especially this Indigo Heiress that goes out at the end of January?
Well, Baker Book House is always my first recommendation, because they often have books on sale and they have free shipping. And I believe you might get a percentage off your first order through Baker Book House. You know, just find them online, Google them. Also, if you go to laurafrantz.net, that's my website. And if you on my homepage, about halfway down, you'll see a sign up for my newsletter. I don't overwhelm your inboxes, but I do curate my newsletters and try to make them as worthwhile for you as I can. And then if you scroll to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see I'm on Instagram, Facebook, X, and Pinterest. And I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook, particularly. Those are kind of my two things of choice. I also have a group called Gorgeous Georgians, which Georgians are the 18th century term for that time period. And so Gorgeous Georgians is on Facebook if you'd like to learn more about that century. A friend and I, a fellow author, Tammy Elizabeth Renich, she runs that group with me. So
That's
just go to my
wonderful.
website, laurafrance.net, and everything else will kind of should be there for you.
Awesome. And I will have links to that in the show notes. So if you are listening right now, you can go right to the show notes and click on her website and on the Facebook group to become a gorgeous Georgian, which I am going to do right now as soon as we're done talking. I love that. I love it. Thank you so much, Laura. This has just been such a pleasure to chat with you. And I am just so excited about your new book and all your new worlds coming out that you're working on. I can't wait to hear more about them. And just thank you for what you do. It's just a wonderful paper mission. And, I feel so honored to chat with you today.
Well, I treasure our time. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, readers, for listening.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with one book lover like yourself. We love to bless as many people as we can with exclusive interviews and, of course, great books. Each month, we host a themed book giveaway where you can win a selection of Christian romance novels and some extra goodies, too. This month's theme is Be My Valentine. We're giving away 5 heartwarming Christian romance books filled with love, second chances, and faith, all perfect for Valentine's Day. If you love sweet, uplifting stories, this is for you. Whether you're listening right as this episode comes out or in the future and don't want to miss out on the giveaway, no worries. You'll find the link to the current giveaway on our website, ChristianRomancePodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, keep your faith, share the love, and happy reading.